And we're back with Gene Brooks tonight, or here on Talking Law TV.
Hey, Michael.
How are you doing?
Good, great.
Good. Well, you're here to talk to us about a little more festive occasion, and that'd be the holiday party.
Yeah, we'll lighten up the topic a little bit
Okay.
here.
With it's the season. I'm sure by this time some people have already had theirs, and there's a lot more left to go between either office parties or people having people over to their homes. So, what's the biggest concern for any holiday party?
The biggest concern for someone who's throwing the party is just what we call reasonable care. And if that's a takeaway from this segment of the program that the listeners would have, it's just you just have to be reasonably careful. It's not an extraordinary burden that a party, someone having a party has. They just have to, if something should be done, then they have to do it. That's kind of vague.
Yeah. Well, the biggest concern, I imagine, for a lot of people would be drinking at the party.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of offices and corporations have cut back on that.
Yeah. Well, let's take it back, and let's take the concept of the reasonable care to the office party. If you're having the office party at your house, for instance, and you're having 30 people over, and let's say there's a husband with his new 20-year-old girlfriend, and the ex-wife comes in, and she throws a punch. Well, there's no liability because there's nothing that the host could have done to prevent that. He wouldn't have known.
Right.
If, on the other hand, you have the people at the party, and you're serving alcohol there, as we would all do, and they've been served 2 or 3 drinks. And then somebody starts becoming belligerent, for instance, so that the host knows they're belligerent, and yet more alcohol is served to that person, knowing that they're already belligerent, and then they swing a punch, then there might be some liability there. Or if they get in the car and they're obviously intoxicated and they drive away, then there might be some liability. I mean, there probably would be some liability. It all goes back to how much the host knows and what the host should do to prevent harm to other people. And it all goes back to the reasonable care.
And all the parties that you go to, I mean, alcohol is going to be a part of it, whether New Year's Eve with champagne or the Christmas parties with the hot toddies and so forth.
Right.
What's the best way to approach someone when it's time to take the keys?
Well, I mean, it's and that's a tough call. You can hopefully they're good enough friends. I think you need to take a taxi. I mean, there are lots of taxis in this town, a lot more than there were 5 years ago, and the primary reason for that, or one of the largest reasons for that, I think, is for drinking. So people can go out and they have a party and they leave their car in the parking lot and they drive home. Because not only, and maybe the best way to approach it is this: if the person is still rational at the time, is to explain to them how much trouble there'll be if they go home and they get a DUI on the way home. They're going to have to hire a lawyer. They could lose their license, and that means they could lose their job. So there are a lot of personal repercussions, and that seems to be the best way to convince people is the self-interest mode. Nobody ever really thinks they're going to run the red light or that they can't drive better. But you know, maybe scaring them is the best way to how they can personally lose what their personal laws can be.
Do dram shop laws apply to personal homes? If they injure or wreck or kill someone on the way home coming from your party?
There again, and even with the dram shop, it all goes back to what the restaurant owner knows. I think dram shops really would just apply to dram shops. But the same concept would still apply, even if there's not a statute on the books that says that. In the Dram Shop Act, in the dram shop, for the listeners, means that if someone is drunk at a restaurant and he gets in a car and he drives away and he kills or hurts somebody on his way to wherever he's going, leaving the bar, then the bar can be responsible, not only the driver, but the bar. And that came about because people were being killed and seriously maimed when they were leaving restaurants, obviously intoxicated.
Now, can they sue me for the same thing if he got plastered at my house?
Yeah, if he's obviously intoxicated and he's leaving your house, then yeah, you'd be better off just calling the cops before he gets out of the driveway.
Or let him end up like Uncle Bob here and just passed out in the ditch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Put him in the back corner.
Now, another concern, we have a slide to demonstrate. What happens at the Christmas party and when people get maybe not so drunk that they're unsafe, but we have a little sexual harassment going on? How do you deal with that at the holiday parties where it's more apt to show itself?
Well, that's an excellent question, and that's you don't really have the you don't have the personal loss thing to I guess to scare them with, unless it's their job, it's their office. You know, I think the best thing to do is just have to tap them on the shoulder and say, y'all need to split up, because you don't want one guest to be uncomfortable because another one is being aggressive with the situation. And then you just have to ask them to leave. Now, you know, people are your guests so long as you ask them there. At some point, if you ask them to leave and they won't leave, then they become a trespasser at that point.
Is that all it takes? Is I want you to go now?
Yeah, I mean, you just tell them they no longer have your permission to stay there in your house. Okay. Before that, people are what we call invitees. You've invited them in the house, and you have a special duty to invitees of reasonable care again. Okay. You know, you have to make your house safe for invitees, and you actually have a duty to inspect your house to make sure it's safe for people to come into.
Okay. And with that thought in mind, what if it was a slip and fall at your house?
Oh, yeah.
That could be a bad thing. What's the first? Obviously, getting medical care.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else should you do? I mean, how are medical bills paid at this point?
Well, another thing you may want to do, I mean, once the person is being cared for, is take some photographs of the scene, because the idea there is, well, what did the person fall on? Was there anything unsafe there that they could have fallen on? And if there was, or even if there wasn't, you probably need to call your homeowner's insurance company. But you want to take the photographs, and you had asked me about medical bills, I think,
right,
before I went off. Okay, and medical bills, sometimes we get a call and say, so-and-so fell at Uncle Bob's house, and we want to sue Uncle Bob. Well, I mean, a lot more goes into that. They just think that because it happened at Uncle Bob's house, Uncle Bob's got to pay the medical bills. And they got a broken leg or something. They want Uncle Bob to pay for that. Well, that's not the way it works. You have to pay your own medical bills, at least starting out. And then if at some point you can show that there was an unsafe condition, then maybe Uncle Bob's insurance company will pay for it. Maybe Uncle Bob would have a really super-duper homeowner's policy that will pay for any type of injury at his house, regardless of whether he's at fault. But that's not, and that would be very unusual. That would be atypical.
Well, on Monday morning, should you call your agent first thing and say somebody fell at my house?
You should always tell your insurance company if something happens at your house, and that's because you have an insurance policy, but all insurance policies have exemptions and requirements. And in every policy I've ever seen, one of the primary requirements is that the insured, in this case the homeowner, must notify the insurance company. And that goes with all policies, car policies, all kind of policies.
Well, thank you so much, Gene. Just keep all these thoughts in mind if you have a holiday party or attending one this year. We'll be back next week with another edition of Talking Law TV. Thanks for watching the show. We'll see you again later. And if you have any questions, check out our website, talkingLawTV.com, or call us on our toll-free line. Bye-bye.